Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at onpurposely.com.
When you go on an adventure, you need team, and that's what this podcast is about. For families with special needs, hope, help, and humor. The Unexpected Adventure. I'm Sam Kelly. One of the things you can say about adventure is that it starts with something uncomfortable. You're leaving something known and going to something that you may have never even imagined existed. And that's what we did. 13 years ago, our daughter Zoe was born, and we became a special needs family. And maybe more accurately, we just found out what special needs we already had as human beings. My guest today is my favorite person, my husband, Carlos. We knew in that hospital room when she was born that something was wrong.
Yeah, the doctor who was there, a tall guy, wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, this is great," and she, he didn't make any kind of a reaction. I knew in that moment something was different. I was like, huh. When I saw her, I was like, wow, she's beautiful, and that's all I thought about. I was like, wow, she's really beautiful, and just had cute little features, her eyes, her nose, her lips. She was beautiful. But then a few minutes into it, their reaction told me that something's not exactly right.
When they finally did all the testing and came back and had the talk with us that she had Down syndrome, how do you remember it?
That was devastating. I didn't know anything about it. I had probably, misconceptions about what it meant at that time. Someone within the first few weeks used an analogy that really described the feeling. Was that, it's like you saved up for all this time to take a nice trip to Italy. And you got on the plane and got all your stuff. You're ready to go to Italy. And as the plane landed, you realize, oh, you're not in Italy. You're in some other place.
You're in Holland. Yep. They gave us that little story.
Where did they say Holland, you said?
Holland, yeah. And Holland is
Holland,
nice.
That's right, yeah.
But
I take Holland for crying out loud. But yeah, yeah. It's like, man, I feel like we landed on Mars. That's how
it felt like we landed on Mars. I remember laying on the hospital floor with you and crying, like both of us. And we don't normally do stuff like that, but we were broken and afraid. I think where all that came from was we just didn't know what was in store for us. And I love what God has done. Sometimes the most scary things that you would never sign up for, that you would never want, turn out to be the best blessings. But it doesn't happen all of a sudden. In fact, for Zoe, it didn't happen fast at all. We had her at home and everything was going pretty great. And then she started having seizures that first year of her life.
Infantile spasms, which is a diagnosis that sounds pretty benign, like, just spasms, no big deal. But it was basically like putting eggs in a frying pan. It was frying her brain, and we had to work so hard and had so many doctor visits and even going on an experimental medication to stop this seizure disorder. That was a really low point right there. Because you're right, we had 4.5 months or so where it was like, okay, I'm kind of getting used to this, kind of getting okay with it. And then when that seizure disorder hit, it was that was a whole nother devastating piece. I didn't know if I could even do this. I didn't know. And it's weird. It's like, but as I got to know this baby, it's a weird word to use, but the word trust. And I was like, okay, I can trust that things are going to be okay. But then when that seizure disorder hit, all my trust went out the window. That's how I felt. It was like, I can't trust that things are going to be okay. I can't trust that I can love this person. It was just thrown out the window in that moment. And during the worst part, it was all horrible during that seizure disorder, but I can remember where all she did was cried, sucked her bottle, and that medicine made her blow up like a balloon, and you could just see a couple eyes and a chin poking out, and that was it.
Yeah, and it was actually 6 months that she did that.
Wow.
And she cried every 2 hours. She would wake up at night every 2 hours. She didn't sleep longer than 2 hours, and she didn't smile. And I remember at the time going, why do people even have babies? Because this is my only biological baby that I've ever had. And I thought, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And there's no reward in it whatsoever. And you and I were having challenges. I mean, if we can talk about it now, because I remember saying to you, I need you now. I need you. And you told me, I don't have anything to give you. I don't have anything. Do you remember that?
I was all tapped out. I was tapped out emotionally. I was tapped out physically. I was even tapped out intellectually. I couldn't process it. In all honesty, I felt like God had let me down. I could do anything. I always felt like God was with me. But in this moment, I was like, no, God, this is not right. This is not cool. You know, I've been through so much. But for you to put this on me, man, this is, no. I had nothing. I didn't even know who I was. It was so different than anything I'd ever had to deal with or anything I ever experienced that I was totally off balance in every way. I had no grounding in any way. And it's funny, I didn't question God's existence. It wasn't like that. I didn't question that there was a relationship. It's like when somebody you loved and who loves you just basically takes you and throws you into a pit. That's what I felt like God did to me. You would do this to me? Wow, I thought you loved me. That's how it felt. And so so when you asked that question in that moment, I was like, I had nothing because I felt like, hey, who am I without the God I've learned to love and trust and turn to? And look at what he did to me. And it's like if that person threw you into a pit and is standing there watching you, and it's like he won't give you a hand out of the pit. And that's kind of how I felt when the seizure disorder hit. It's like, you see, I'm hurting here. Give me something. Give me something. And he's like, nope, I'm going to pile this on top of you too. I'm going to put this on you. Make it even worse. I'm like, oh, God, come on, man. Come on. Before that, I always felt like God, I would never go through something that had no value. And I felt like this was something that has no value. I'll never be able to take these feelings that I'm feeling right now or take this situation that I'm going through right now. To that point, I always knew that, okay, if something bad happened, okay, I can get through it. And I know based on what the Bible tells me, I'll be able to take this and use it for good. I felt like it was so unique, and I felt like it was just so horrible that there was no good in something like this. None, zero. Wrong about it. I see that 13 years later, but in the moment, that's how it felt. You know? One of the things that Zoe has taught me, she was coming off that seizure medication, which had her just, and coming off the seizures. Her 1-year birthday party, and we gave her that cake. It was like a white cake with white icing or something like that. We gave her this cake, and she just started grabbing this cake, and she like came alive. You could see her looking up and smiling and really enjoying this cake. And this was, like I said, this was a child who hadn't smiled in months, who hadn't shown any emotion, who didn't look you in the eye at all under any circumstances. But in her birthday party at 1 year old, it was like, oh, there's a little person in there, a fun little bunny too, just, and she attacked that cake, and it was so good. And she would look at the cake, look you in the eye, look at the cake, look you in the eye, look at, and she hadn't looked this in the eye in months, like literally, like a child who does not look their parent in the eye. That's horrible. So you don't know what's going on in this child's head. As I look at it now, I go, I wish it hadn't been so painful, the moment from her birth and that in between time in that first year. I wish it had not been so painful, that I could have even appreciated that moment for what it was. Because prior to that, for months, all I remember was hospital, you taking her like 7 to 10 hospital visits per week, literally like per week. You're giving her injections in her leg twice a day, every day, crying every 2 hours, feedings. That was it. You could barely hug her. I mean, it was like hugging a limp little glob. It wasn't like somebody was hugging you back in that moment.
Now, looking back on it, we can look at it and go, she was in there the whole time, and we were able to fight for her. And it was a messy fight, but we were able to do it each in our own way as best as we could. And I'm proud of us because we came through it. There are a lot of families who, when they go through stuff like that, they break up. And we certainly walked to the edge of it, but we didn't. We stayed together. Mm-hmm. And you walked through depression, and you came out of it. And I'm so proud of you because I've never seen anyone make a decision, I'm going to come out of depression, and then come out of it as brilliantly as you did.
Thank you, babe. Yeah, going through it now, you can see why so many people don't make it through it as a couple or even as an individual, why you could lose yourself and lose your mind and lose your relationship with God. And it's not right, but it's easy to see how it happens. It's like if you get hit unexpectedly in a way that you're kind of unprepared for, it's going to hurt until you move past it. Some people might not have been as devastated by that situation as we were. If you're the kind of person where maybe that you wouldn't find that diagnosis devastating and you're more okay with it than maybe I could have been, I admire that.
Yeah.
Because that would be a different journey. But for our journey, it was really tough because that was something that was not something that I could really accept in the beginning.
I really feel like when God healed her from the seizures, what he was really doing was healing us from how messed up we were inside. And when she came out of it with full-on Zoe. It was beautiful.
That little personality, before she could even talk, she was a good communicator, and she looked you in the eye, and she wanted to connect. What I love about Zoe is that when she meets you, she doesn't meet you with her intellect or her mind. She meets you with her heart every single day. Every morning when she gets up and runs across the living room and says, "Daddy!" and, she's meeting me with her heart. She's really comfortable feeling what her heart feels. And I admire that about her. I admire that so much. I wish I could be that pure to go, I'm talking about when you and I were dating, and I told you I didn't want to put my glasses on. I don't want to wear glasses because you look too pretty when I wore glasses, It's like, think about that. It's like, man, what if every day I had just soaked your beauty in and said, wow, I put this really cool, But it was easy for me to go, well, I can't look at her because I may mess something up. I don't want to be upset if I mess it up. So I'm not going to look at how pretty she is, because if I see how pretty she is, if something didn't go right, I'll be too upset. So I'm going to act like she's not that pretty, It's like, man, what is wrong with me? How stupid can I don't know.
You're a great boyfriend.
Yeah, but Zoe has forced me to go, this world is full of beautiful things. Meet it with your heart. There's so much more to feel and explore. There's so much more joy.
Why do you think people don't meet the world with their heart?
Because we went around protecting ourselves for whatever reason. If I give my heart to this person, it might get broken. I might find disappointment, and I don't want to be disappointed, so I won't expect anything. So I guard myself. And we all do it in different ways, Some of us do it in a person, like for a romantic relationship. Some people do it with work. And the worst part is some of us do it with God, And I had met God with my heart, and that's the hard part about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is easier when you guard your heart. It is easier, but there's not as much joy. When you guard your heart, you reduce the pain. But when you live meeting the world with your heart, there's so much more joy, fulfillment, and even purpose in that, And that's what little Zoe, that's what our amazing Zoe is teaching me is, get back out there with your heart. Put it out there, Maybe a couple of times it won't work out, but when it does, there's going to be so much more joy in it. And even in the process of figuring things out, there's so much more joy in that. It makes life that much more worth living.
Giving yourself permission to feel and to do things messy and to accept circumstances that aren't how you thought they would be.
Yes. And her story is so amazing. I mean, I don't know how you would exactly express it, but I can almost say she's brought the most pain, but also the most joy. That was a very painful period, but I get to be silly with her now, and I get to enjoy interaction with her because she enjoys it, and we get to be okay enjoying it. She's never withdrawn that heart-to-heart connection. There's never been something that's divided us in terms of our heart, and it's just amazing to see that. People like Zoe so much, and I don't think they really know why they like Zoe. She's authentic and genuine, and she loves you truly, and she doesn't have any reason to not love another human being. And so when she looks at someone, they may not be identified, but they're being loved in that moment. And we all want to be loved. She's just wonderful and how she loves purely. You and I were talking months ago, or maybe about a year ago, I said to myself, it's so interesting, like when she's with her friends and her friends with Down syndrome, and they're talking to each other. They all speak in interesting ways or whatnot, but they never go, huh? Or what? Or what you say? Or whatever. They always understand each other. And it's like, I'm in the car with my friends with college degrees, or we're sitting across the table, all these guys who are super smart, and we're going, huh? What? What? And we almost don't understand each other. And I think it's because we're like guarding our hearts or guarding our beliefs versus just fully living with that person in the moment, Zoe and her friends just fully live with each other and love on each other and accept each other and connect heart to heart. And when you have a heart to heart connection, you don't need a brain connection first. You know, your heart tells your brain what's real versus your brain telling your heart what's real. We get it in moments from certain friends at certain times where we go, wow, that was a great conversation we had. I mean, we connected with our heart, which told our mind what to do versus our mind telling our hearts to guard itself. And being around Zoe is great because every day you get that. Every day it's like, here's my heart, Dad. Thank you. Gotcha. Here's my heart, sweet Zoe.
You told God there's no way that you can use any of this. This is a total wasted season. And what has he shown you since then?
What he's shown me is that whether it's an exact same thing, Down syndrome, or whether it's just a thing where trauma comes into your life for whatever reason, that he is with you. And I've been able to voice that to other people. Like you're talking about coming through depression and having a couple friends I've talked to since then who went through depression, and you feel like you're the only one in the world who could be depressed, and you feel like you let God down because you are depressed, and all these different thoughts and feelings you have that create this blame, shame, avoidance cycle, and this kind of a thing. I've been able to help friends basically get through that and come out of that. You know, I'm not a therapist or anything like that, but just to go, I see you, I feel you, I understand a lot of what you're feeling right now. I realize the journey is tough. It's not overnight. And to help them help themselves to get through it. I would never been able to help the people I've been able to help had it not been going through this journey myself. You know, and I did tell God, I told God, I was so sure when I told God, man, you messed up on this one. There is no way this has any value. This is you're wrong. I told God that, you know, and then he showed me that he was right and that there is value in that. And it goes beyond even deep depression. It's about having a heart for people in whatever their struggle it might be, you know, whether it's a health struggle or relational struggle. It softened me to help me to meet people where they were versus always telling people where they need to go. I've always been good with trying to help people achieve their goals, but sometimes you got to sit with people where they are in the moment and understand that and to connect with that and help them connect with that so that you can get out of it. But if you don't know where you are, it's almost impossible to get to some destination down the road. I'm probably more humble, maybe that's the word, more humble and able to authentically meet people in a point of struggle without judgment, without condemnation, because the last thing I needed in that moment was judgment and condemnation. God did that. And, you know, it's like, well, you know, God, if you wanted to use me to be a blessing to your people and your kingdom, I'm happy about that. I feel honored that God would use me in that way. And we've seen good results from it and good relationships and people bouncing back and doing really cool stuff and not feeling condemned and knowing they have a safe place and a safe person to talk to.
What would you say to a family who just found out that they're about to join in the special needs adventure and they're scared?
It's okay to be scared. That's the first thing. It's worth the journey for sure. And they're going to find some good moments, some incredible moments. It's true. This is something that's probably worse than something they could have ever imagined. But the opposite of that is also true. There are going to be points of joy that you're going to experience down the road that you can't imagine, that I can't even imagine for you. But I can guarantee you they're going to happen if you walk through the journey, if you allow the journey to take its own course, its own pace.
When you think about the future, how do you see Zoe and how do you see us as a family?
I just like to see us spread joy and spread love and hope. Because I would say at my lowest point, I didn't have hope. But from her 1-year birthday, that's when I grabbed hold to some hope. When I saw that little face light up and eat the cake and lick the plate. Yes.
Yes. We all should eat the cake and lick the plate.
There's so much more excitement when you greet the world and meet the world with your heart.
Thank you so much for being here for the Unexpected Adventure. Hope, help, and healing for families with special needs. If you like this, pass it on to a friend or leave a review. And check out other cool content on purposely.com. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time for the Unexpected Adventure.
Thanks for listening. We just wanted to take a minute to let you know that just like you and your family, Purposely is also part of a family, the Krista Family of Ministries. Krista helps kids and teens learn and grow in their faith at King Schools and Miracle Ranch Camp. And Krista shares Jesus with people in the poorest, most remote places through World Concern. Krista Senior Living is a community of love and care, and Krista Media is a place of hope on the radio. God is changing lives through these 5 ministries, and Krista is on mission to share the good news of Jesus. To learn more, visit Krista.org.